So let's start. And I indeed talk about a little bit about lighting. Lighting control is my own specialty. And I start why, how, what. However, focus of presentation is anyway how this lighting related data actually can be used to benefit other smart building providers and would I say silos, so different technology areas. And a few words about new senses which start to be more and more common and how they could benefit other smart building parts as well. But let's start with lighting control. And reason to have lighting control, it's of course to improve well-being, increase flexibility. So basically when space is changing, then do something different way also in lighting control. And of course save energy. It's a little bit depends on which year we are talking about. I think a few years ago it was this well-being was always the first one, but the last few years is energy is again like something what everybody is talking about. And also at this fair, sustainability is the words which is repeated quite often. And basic lighting control, it's of course it's occupancy detection, so seeing if space is occupied or not, and automatically turning lights on off with some maybe fade times. Daylight harvesting, so basically seeing that how much daylight, natural light is available and controlling artificial light according to that. Scene setting, so basically depending on different needs in the space, change settings, the way that lighting supports whatever is happening at that space. Personally, I think all that should happen automatically. So if somebody needs to control something, so if somebody needs to push the button to change something, it's actually kind of error message. So everything should be so automatically that you actually don't notice lighting. Lighting at the moment, this is the main norm, as most of you I think know, that it's EN norm and it's regulating how much light you should be on the task area. It regulates what are the uniformity, color rendering, etc. It tells how much light you should have on the ceiling and walls, and it's also then encourage you to change lighting according to the different needs. At the moment, there is something called context modifiers. So basically, depending, for example, what kind of work or if there are errors are costly to rectify, if daylight is available or not, if work continues long, etc., you should actually use different lighting levels depending on those needs. And that verification is also something what lighting control can do. Lighting networks. This is quite typical example of different kind of lighting networks. Basically, there are these wired ones. Normally, wired ones are, I think, most common is DALI network. So there are a lot of DALI luminaires available. So lighting control happens through this DALI protocol, digital addressable lighting interface, and they have been used already, would I say, more than 25 years. Then there are more and more these wireless networks as well, and there are different protocols and technologies. As an example, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Thread, I think, was used also. Also, even Wi-Fi lighting is available. So different type of control networks are there for wireless side. So it's not like something is now the only selection or most prominent. And wireless side also there is a little bit different kind of topologies. So some use some kind of routed wireless network, so message goes through the certain route, and some are more mesh-based, so basically different nodes in systems just repeat the message. And traditionally, the main intelligence point, where basically also most of the integration other systems like HVAC happened, was some kind of middle area. So there were some kind of, there is still different kind of controllers, lighting controllers, which are controlling lighting below it. And then sometimes they are used as well to integrate, for example, building management system through some gateway, backnet gateway or something else, which transfer the data to some other system. However, I think past 10 years actually more has been happening on cloud level and edge intelligence. So I think more and more intelligence is moving and development at Lightning Networks is actually happening really at the edge. So processing data there is price-wise it's a nice place because it's these microprocessors, they are not too expensive. You can collect a lot of data on sensor level, analyze that already there, and then decide what to send upwards. And on the other hand, this cloud intelligence, if you really need more comprehensive AI models, for example, cloud is the right place to do it. So it's still, I think, most common integration place and intelligence places in the middle. Would I say maybe then building level? But it might be, and it looks like that these other two ends are growing. And also from integration point of view, they are quite interesting places. So basically integration can happen very much there on the edge or on the cloud level. But this is some kind of debate, so it's not really, there is no prominent truth there, so all this will happen. Then a few words about these typical lighting sensors. So what is actually the data available now and maybe in the future? Typically these lighting related sensors, they are actually, I would say, simple passive infrared sensors. Or then there is normally some kind of daylight or light sensor. And they have this row, turn on the lights without noticeable delay. And that's actually why lighting needs always these controls nearby and some controlling logic there. So you don't want to wait that if you enter the space that, okay, something should happen very fast. And it's a little bit different than, I think, everything in the area of HVAC, for example, that it's controlling speed is not so fast. And after the after the occupation period, for energy saving reasons, lights should be turned off. And light sensors are normally just keeping the lights on the level what is needed. There are basically two different, there can be more, but these basic types are these luminaire-based sensors. So sometimes sensors are put to the luminaires, and sometimes they are in area. And area sensors are normally then controlling bigger group of sensors. Then these new technologies, also at this fair, we have seen a lot of examples of cameras, thermal cameras. Also, not actually, I didn't see yet much radar and LiDAR examples, but they are also technologies that are coming. And acoustic sensors can be used as well. They are definitely coming, so the sensors will be more complicated, there will be more data coming. However, still I would say that for coming years, the most common lighting-related sensor will be this PIR sensor, so passive infrared. These other sensor technologies, however, they can enhance the data. I like especially, for example, radar and LiDAR, because they can give, also by the way, thermal camera can do that sometimes, but basically giving idea that which direction movement is going. So it's not just that if it's occupied or if it's how many people there are, but also to which directions movement are going, and that's useful for lighting control. Then to think how actually or why to use these lighting sensors for something else. Sometimes it's cost have some meaning. So it's if you are able to use same sensors for multiple purposes, then actually you can save money. Initial investments, so when these sensors are there already because of lighting, why not to use them for something else? So this is also valid for old buildings, by the way. And then design, installation, operation, and maintenance is easier. Then there is this sustainability topic. So less sensors you have, also this embodied carbon level is less, and there will be less energy consumption. Actually, this third reason there is this better aesthetics. So less sensor acne is something I added there because I heard that it's one of the main reasons why, for example, architects don't want different kind of sensors. I'm more engineer, so I don't care, but it seems that having different sensors here and there is not preferred by architects. Also, there is actually a fourth reason, which I did not put here either, is security. That some say that if adding more sensor networks collecting the data, it might decrease the security level. However, security level is tricky thing because although every manufacturer, I think at the moment is focusing on improving, making all the system very secure, it's something that manufacturers are not willing to tell, or let's say they are not willing to advertise. It's a risky thing to say that our system is more secure than anybody else, and it's kind of inviting hackers to test that. But those are the main reasons for using lighting control. And using lighting control related sensors for something else. Then I talk about this different type of data. So we can think about past data, so having this kind of historical data, what we have collected and how to use this historical data. There's also live data, so actual data, so what is happening right now, can we benefit of that, and how we can benefit of that. Then predictions, that is maybe more and more coming, so future way, it's already exists in many cases, but I think this, like Heikki previous presentation, thinking that how we can actually use the data to predict the future. And of course, I'm thinking that mainly that how we can use all that data, what is available, and what we can get maybe more data, how we can use that to improve lighting performance. But same time, same maybe similar way, maybe these other players can use the data to benefit and improve their solutions. So when thinking this past data, it's far the most common way at the moment to use lighting data. So basically generating different type of reports, what has happened before, and occupancy data is there, maybe the most important or most interesting. So basically showing that since lighting sensors, these simple peer sensors, they are everywhere in the building, you can show the different trends that, okay, this building has been used this way during the past, whatever the period. Is it a normal thing, for example, I think is some kind of monthly report showing that this has been the occupancy level. There in those reports you can see also differences and abnormalities, so if something is happening or not, and based on these reports you will be able to adjust these timings, for example, timings of lighting, but also timings of other systems. And adjusting the levels as, for example, so what is this ventilation speed? And then is it too far, too low, or actually when you should do something? However, these if you think about these reports and recommendation based on the past data, they are very much, they kind of aim for manual changes. So they are very useful old buildings where it's maybe this integration between systems is not done, or no even plan to do any real integrations. But still these manual or these kind of reports might help facility managers or these maintenance guys to adjust other systems better. Although these adjustments would be manual, but this is the nice thing is that you can do this also in very old buildings. Then going more on the space level, so not just thinking floor or bigger areas, but if we have more advanced, for example, HVAC systems, then we can also control smaller spaces. And this is actually also quite used at the moment, I know already. So looking per space in the building, that there is most common need is actually to see that which spaces are used, if there is kind of overutilization or they are not very utilized. So basically certain spaces are not used. So this help tenants, for example, thinking how much space they need. But also this helps to adjust this kind of local level, one space level, other parameters like heating and ventilation. However, when we do this based on the past data, it's a little bit manual thing. And if we add more sensors, so it's also a little bit trend, and I think you have seen also here that adding more sensors to this, or let's say adding more sensor elements to these lighting related sensors, then you can get more and more data from these same devices. Part of the sensors are nowadays, I think they are added to improve lighting control, but there are also more and more sensors related environmental conditions. Here is an example where also some, I think, CO2 data is used. And this is example also, this is actually from our own office where we were simply using the sensors, using occupancy, and then from same sensors we took also some environmental parameters, like in this case it was TVOC and kind of equivalent CO2 levels what we were monitoring. And it was simply easy to notice that actually timings of our air conditioning system were not okay. And we have a relatively old building, so it's 25 years old building, or not so old, but the ventilation system is also from that period. So it is very big area, practically one floor, and it was easy to see that timings were not correct. So, but just changing those timings based on occupancy, doing that manually, it saves energy, and energy saving was calculated to be something like 15% in that case. We have done that similar type of test with a little bit newer buildings, so very modern hospital, for example, in Finland, actually with previous speaker, and it shows there that even in the very modern building, we can actually save quite a lot of energy. Of course, there the benefit is that when ventilation is more space specific, then actually you are able to see that certain areas are a little bit over ventilated, so air quality never goes down at all. So there, when you change the ventilations according also occupancy, you are able to save. I think the example was also around 10-20% of ventilation energy. And that's related to heating as well. Then about live data. So when we get really the data, so what is happening now? There is, I think there are a lot of examples there as well, but then it's also always the question that where actually this integration happens. So is it cloud level integration, is it building level integration, is it even the space level integration? But they are that simple that basically if something is, for example, occupied or unoccupied, then something else should be done. For example, simple example on very edge level is that we have sometimes integrated occupancy sensors the way that they also trigger some relay, the way that some ventilation speed or something starts. So that they are directly connected, even wired together. So that's one example. Also on the edge level, what I like is these new wireless networks. They give quite nice integration possibilities because these, as an example, Bluetooth network. So if you have occupancy sensor and it's in Bluetooth network, for example, Bluetooth mesh network. Actually, they are kind of, you can use those sensors they are kind of beacons, but in this case, they can advertise, so they can send Bluetooth AdWords, which goes maybe 8-10 meters away, and then another device can pick up this message and start something. So as an example, we have done that with simple thermostats. So actually, it's just the thermostat just pick up this message and start changing the settings according. Now it's occupied level, occupied period, and now it's unoccupied. Similar way, it can be air purifier or whatever. So, but these AdWords are quite nice and secure way. Actually, lighting system doesn't even know how somebody else is using those AdWords. But indeed, these similar type of integrations are possible on higher levels, and higher you go, so cloud level integrations, then you can do, of course, much more. Predictions. So when going to that level, that really starting to use, for example, these AI models, then this is an example of how lighting system can use these predictions. So you know that when using these passive infrared sensors, they are kind of reliable, but you have to add quite long fade times because they are not always so sensitive if people are quite stable. So basically, typically is, for example, even 20 minutes or something like that, or sometimes even half an hour to be sure that you don't need to do that waving when lights go off. So it's this peer optimization works the way that basically just collecting all this history data and present data, run these AI models, basically these deep neural networks actually are used here, and making predictions that actually will the space be occupied after half an hour, for example, or after 15 minutes, and then adjusting these fade times according to these predictions. I don't know if this is somewhere already used, this kind of, let's say, lighting peer optimization. Is it used also for HVAC? But I think there is a nice potential, the way that when there is anyway occupancy prediction running in the building, then also HVAC systems could use that prediction in different ways. So for example, that if prediction says that this room space will not be occupied after half an hour, then maybe heating or cooling should be reduced already a little bit before than occupancy really stops. But it's a little bit, there are a lot of examples there, and I'm pretty sure that many of you are able to think other possibilities how to use this type of predictions which are already existing. So adding new senses, it means for lighting, it means that we can do things better. As an example, I put here that what we have done, we have added sound sensors to our new peer sensors also. So basically we have their algorithm running, which is able to detect if there are human human origin, so voice which is generated by humans, and then when we have this kind of data, we can actually play again with these fade times. So if there is that type of noise or sound, we can increase this fade time a little bit. Similar way for other systems like HVAC, this type of data, it just makes a predictions data. It makes it more reliable, so enhance the data, what then can be used for somewhere else. So basically, lighting requires sensors and light speed sensor networks, and that's because you, as I said, expect that lighting should work immediately, and they are already in the buildings. So that's why lighting-based sensor data can give insights for other building systems in very cost-efficient and sustainable way. These different type of data, past data, live data, and predictions, have all their unique use cases. And I'm here to say that I know there are a lot of use cases, but I'm also saying that I think these experts of different smart building silos, they are most probably the ones who will find the best use cases for this type of data, which is generated very much for lighting purposes, but you might see how to use that in other areas. As an example, Risto's presentation, the first one, thinking the smart grid integrations, enhanced occupancy predictions might help quite a lot there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.